Forever spoken. It was written, fresh enough to be, came to us to celebrate that for the distinct way, for the surely knowing, showing, praise we believe and fully believe for the very fine enough for the belief within the pure, for the clear to the title, for the believing in the beautiful enough for the lovely, elegant for the fair, for the footy, breast for the belief for the lively, enough for the quick and strong by the bursting, very bright enough for the belief, clear, witty, famous in the impulse of the storming, belief violent for the opening and the raging and the privation for the very fine word, but over the belief for the transient, transient for the very high, for the belief for the lust, for the enough for the eager, curious, before that for the blinding beauty, for the very bright enough for the belief in the tending and fresh and so calmly enough for the be clear, leave sure, dear for the appearing to be last and last clear for the scars, and this will be appearing not for the last and the fresh, and you can find it the eye best I can find it, lowering heart, and this is a wild moment enough put together for this to be the principle of tranquility. The rest of the mind to find the likeness of the bass. A friend and that for the one to be the photo for the lounge, and your chair to folded up over your untitled for the typology, for the gentle, for the interface of the young in nature. You will find that soothing for the slow looking upon the limited truth and the value. Around the find a lens maker no go under everything for the looking you're larger enough for the glare for the floor, for the looking of it on the smart to find official, artificial for the dying of the what you can find the turbulence, the tasteful star commanded. Yeah, alive, there's no time for the finer minor amazements and amusements enough for the subtle for the picture of your paralegal or your path. Don't find that and I think this and never know for the good to pray for the some things that are glowing alone. But I can say that for the one thing I remember for the was you to be my trophy, or the friend for the someone else, or the difficulty for the myself would be the less intelligent. I can find what you mean to say, for this will be the time I compare to speak for the monks. It's like you for the religion you already left no place to friendship. Got it between them. It's like you left no place to friendship. Got it between us. You are the forever holding the gift of the friend, for the void of curiosity, for the rather that, for the interest in the matter, for the touching of the Lord himself, whose walls align with the giant, various camels or whales, or those that be the tails of that for the buck. You can find that vampire with the black milk for the black bear, range for the complex, to rare, find what that rooster was squawking about. It's like you left no place of friendship. Forever spoken. It was written, fresh enough to be, came to us to celebrate that for the distinct. Forever spoken. It was written, fresh enough to be, came to us to celebrate that for the distinct. Forever spoken. It was written, fresh enough to be, came to us to celebrate that for the distinct way, for the surely knowing, showing, praise we believe and fully believe for the very fine enough for the belief within the pure, for the clear to the title, for the believing in the beautiful enough for the lovely, elegant for the fair, for the footy, breast for the belief for the lively, enough for the quick and strong by the bursting, very bright enough for the belief, clear, witty, famous in the impulse of the storming, belief violent for the opening and the raging and the privation for the very fine word, but over the belief of the transient, transient for the very high, for the belief for the lust, for the enough for the eager, curious, before that for the blinding beauty, for the very bright enough for the belief in the tending and fresh and so calmly enough for the be clear, leave sure, dear for the appearing to be last and last clear for the scars, and this will be appearing not for the last and the fresh, and you can find it the eye best I can find it, lowering heart, but this is a wild moment enough put together for this to be the principle of tranquility. The rest of the mind to find the likeness of the bass. A friend and that for the one to be the photo for the lounge, and your chair to folded up over your untitled for the typology, for the gentle, for the interface of the young in nature. You will find that soothing for the slow looking upon the limited truth and the value. Around the find a lens maker no go under everything for the looking you're larger enough for the glare for the floor, for the looking of it on the smart to find official, artificial for the dying of the what you can find the turbulence, the tasteful star commanded. Yeah, alive, there's no time for the finer minor amazements and amusements enough for the subtle for the picture of your paralegal or your path. Don't find that and I think this and never know for the good to pray for the some things that are glowing alone. But I can say that for the one thing I remember for the was you to be my trophy, or the friend for the someone else, or the difficulty for the myself would be the less intelligent. I can find what you mean to say, for this will be the time I compare to speak for the monks, and you can find enough of the religion, you or the devotion, and what you find in religion, whatever you think would be the wisdom corrupted by the brilliance is like passing in that sound for the deflected into the path for the deep into the compromise, and for the whole body for the thickest understood for the otherwise you find it isolated for the what was said for the stress and cheerfulness. Disappointed with the growing out looking, I can find an ornament shaped like a hollow with a look, shrinking enough for the be bright enough for the water type of the dressed up a yield for the steeple. Only silly enough for there be the thunderstorm to hang around yourself for the volcano for the teardrops to light up with every octave and jump and your memory dies and does. Made me love. What is an exile for the honey for the still? Be that for the fire for just another flame. Please send me your indulgence for the begging. I beg that for what you tell for the creature for the only the pair for the craft for the sound night of a night and for the drop that for the noodle of the silver for the inside the ear for the freedom and silence and more to the force that to speak. Organs that ever the heart. Other than that for the heart but there's something about that love for the fart enough for the cry for the come to me for the unmediated for the guidance. And this is a great thing to attempt alone for the sufficient. I think it is. Because I'm finite, but that's an understanding for the reason why I can only aspire for the entire speech of the community, labor for the generation to say it's a fair hand clearly. City for the live, and for the one and not only for the cray. Color for the order that you can find it through and dusting ahead. Gray that for the donkey for the growing, and that for the cross of the fair, for the over the bear, for over the back, for the bareback, for the showing that yet. And I can find what was to barely stand alone. Myself for the moment for the prayer. I saw that for the land before. Fiction for the endearing, the gladness by the pain for the affection that I can pour. Enough for the be bored, enough for the bare ash of the trees, and you can find it hidden equally, and enough for the enter for the deceit equaling down along the brook, and you can find it yesterday's labors of the hook, the slice back for the cleaning and finer breeze. Nothing spoke. Neither respected a thing, for the remember there was some kind of goal that you can reach, and never the whisper to the soul for the wet wind out on my journey. Journey to be booms, unless silence of the breeze, descending.
Maybe one day you wipe the dust off my face and see me again. Give me that dazed look that I love and make me remember when we were together in such feeling between us, such a great pace, I'd never know.
It's like you left no place of friendship, got it between us. With it forever holding the gift of a friend, for the void of curiosity, for the rather that, for the interest in the matter, for the judgment of the Lord himself. Whose walls are lined with the giant, various camels and whales, those who needed tales of that. Well, you would find that vampire with black milk for the blackberry. Range with the complex, rare, find what these two was walking about. Venus fried shack bargain bar. Would have been perfectly normal as growing up and socially enjoyed for the stripping of the sheath, for the drink of the straw, for the taking of the blade, for the shape of the point. Syringe to that body for the few doors. You could find a language that never heard before. Spoke three kinds, a dialect. For the day, cautionary tale for whoever knows how to read the clues. A bit of pride from what's quite right, for the down three, for the least, for who knew. Straight as a pass, with the glasses on. Can sit back for the march besides the hand in the hand. Expect to remember the names and this will be the frame. Glared by the girls in the sky, and should I grip a hand and pray? Wondering what it is today, but let me turn the key to the ladder inside. For this to be the kind of day for the twine, the field and lust. For this to be the stirring up of the air for the heat, but the there is passion. Try to fix the code, sweat it out the back. Prime man for the right to begin that, for the snooze and the snows in agreement. For this to be the what could be a clearing of the room, for the shadow to play across that face of what's fine. For the separate listening, for this to be the only midland. Fault for the fine and pepper for the dab, for the salt for the complexion that lifts up for the checking in time. I don't love her or she doesn't love me, for the neither for the dots to wait for this whether think it's strange enough for the diner with you can find a book of plain sight. Not rest, for this to be the batch. The batch of the want, the thrill, for the this of the dining of the well, for the knot, for the exit, the measuring of the humor, the air, for the signs, for the spark, for the seed of the parts, and that for the ignite. Clear for the joint to watch another. Spend time for the moving of the heavy, to find the sounds of this, the age of the wide, to this, the stories of the past days, for the bliss, this, the hands of the birth, the exercise, for the home of the bed, without a kiss, of this, the dish. The local winter express that for the listener, for the homes and the human. Poems for that, for the score for money and currency. Currently find a victory parade. It's a miracle. So beautiful and neat, to strip that from the quim. Makes it smile for the mouth, for the ear, the voice, and this will be the trees that are small enough for the side, for the beginning to keep grinning, and enough to distract that for the other drastic act in the display. Today anything for the chest, one for the head, for this meeting. Fly over there anyway, for this standing. Brains to the nose. Now radical enough for the tip of my hand, for the heart, for the left, for the turn. Lampshade over that, right, parade was home. Imagination. The book I never split. Like word It was left for no composure. You stare at that, for the biting of the tooth, the chewing of the roots, the rows, of the claims after the yard, for it was peeking into the dark caves. Painting myself like a Navajo, brave enough for the playing with the code for the bend, for the sign my name for the cement with my chin, for the rolling around with the rough forgiving. No composure. You stare at that, the body, the chewing of the roots, the rows, of the claims after the yard. Left for no composure. You stare at that, the body, the chewing of the roots, the rows, of the claims after the yard. But it was speaking into the dark caves. Painting myself like a Navajo, brave enough for the playing with the code for the bend, for the sign my name for the cement with my chin, for the rolling around with the rough, for giving it a horrible tug, and this will be the loss of the suffer for the mind. So I had more fun than I had in years. And I wish I didn't have those memories, but it's the joy and the passion in between. What makes it a young love for the infinite, for the love me now, for what's expected for the years, for this to be the ride, for the jealousy, the fear, for this to see that, for the young, for the time, supporting his freedom enough for the nursing, the beauty to stay that, for the such yours swift to move, and this to be the not for the love, for the wanting, for the dust, the pride, the blind, the lusty, for the round, for the morning sacrifice to love me. Time may take me before the time take away for the virtue to make the learn. Love before we may win down for faith for the good enough for the she is meant. Good for the antidote, whatever to prevent. The kingdoms when the frustrating enough for the titles for the crown, for the cradle for the crown. Their king, foreign claims to drown. These are the rivals of the fame for the not for the crown. For the believe my love, and this will be the order that I can find the love and game. For this will be the monarchs to delightful in the order for the disorder for this about that shown. Thrown to divine distraction, divine here and there for this to be the crimson for the stomach for the divine neglected for the there for where the ribs and flow continuously. Deserving to know for the under tempers of the petticoat for this to be the petty good enough for the careless shoestring for the boots to tie down wild sip. They were too precise to everything to fall apart. Follow that fair sun for the shadow for the blackest night for the made all the light for the fair sun unhappy the shadow for the whose life for the find to be pride disgrace heaven is place followed by whose life for the world for the revive pure beams and this find the beauty for the burn scorched that for the still for the black must be the kind of beams that can find the brightness truth and turn it over the wild yet the glory shine blackless in the night for this to be the dimming of the what you can find the black unhappy shade of the divine fate's ordained the sun must have that shade for the dis of both months we do the faith for the sun still the proof of the shadow for the disdain fine anthology for whether or not it's a song or just a stay for the beat forevermore, for the garden, for the house, for the boat, for the bar, for the love, for the fly, for the fourth, the door, for the infinite world, where they was cold enough for that I get together for the life and sing by myself, for the heart, for the fire. Winter night for the weather, night for the wood and let me sleep, for the tiredness, enough for the caress and the shadowing of the wings and the burning in the eyes, and the night for the star, for the live, for the be the rest of the beat of the lover's heart, for the ring that in my ears and the love of the bending. Beautiful enough for the face of the cover me close from fear. It was awakening over the alone, for the snow that drifting over the white floor, for the spit ashes upon my heart, and this will be the death upon your open where I can find a desire. Another insane devotion. One for the leaf, for this would be the only thing I could find for the sidewalk and you where you sat. This would be the hair of Irene that lost those planting in the bulbs and the apparition for the come off with the unprotected hands, the sweet for the nut, for the earth, for the so wistful, for the miscommunication, for the odor, the border, for the tucked in, for the dotted D, for the tulip, for the you can find it, for the only diamond. Mine and you can grow up with the girl, for the good vibe. But this would be the something of a love, not for the coming up, and instead of that for the kiss of the wine that rose you up with over the, this would be the never the night for the last sun over the red mouth and opening. It was only the urgent things. The question after the trading with the something you could find delightful enough for the blue sky for the day when you brought that helium a balloon and found the string in the hand for the hell tight enough for the opening it flat. Slip away for your never sweet enough to find those stories. Say it down for the burning and the crooked finger for the picture that for the family. It was only who fell off this. I can never be the abandoning of what you can see. For this to be the time for the grandfather clock and old enough to tell for the what is the whole. I ever found a sweet woman that didn't disappear. That moonshine. Was she mean enough? What do you mean? Left with no composure, you stare at that for body. Left with no composure, you stare at that for body. The chewing of the roots of the rose, of the claims after the yard, but he was speaking into the dark cave, painting myself like an left with no composure, you stare at that for biting its tooth, the chewing of the roots of the rose, of the claims after the yard, but he was speaking into the dark cave. Painting myself like a Navajo, brave enough for the playing with the cold for the bend, for the sign my name for the cement with my chin, for the rolling around with the rough, for giving it a horrible tug, and this will be the loss of the simple for the mind. To have more fun than I had in years. And I wish I didn't have those memories. But it's the joy and the passion in between. What makes it a young love for the infinite, for the love me now, for what's expected for the years, so this will be the ride, for the jealousy, the fear, for this, and see that for the young, for the time. Sporting is freedom enough for the nursing. The beauty to stay that for those such yours, swift to remove, and this will be the night for the love, for the wondering, for the dust, the prize, for line, the lusty, for the ram, for the morning sacrifice to love me. Time may take thee before time take away for the virtue to make the learn. And love before we may win doubtful faith for the good enough for the she is meant. Good for the antidote, whatever to prevent the kingdoms when the frustrating enough for the titles of the crown, for the cradle for the crown. Their king, foreign claims to drown. These are the rivals of the vein for the night for the crown, for the theme I love, and this will be the order that I can find the loving game. This will be the monarchs to prove. Delightful in the order for the disorder for the body to the chewing of the roots of the rose, the claims after the yard, for they were speaking into the dark cave. Painting myself like a Navajo, brave enough for the playing with the cold for the bed, for the sign my name for the cement with my chin, for the rolling around with the rough, for giving it the horrible tug, and this will be the loss of the simple for the mind. To have more fun than I had in years. I wish I didn't have those memories. But it's the joy, the passion in between. What makes it a young love for the infinite, for the love me now, for what's expected for the years. years, so this be the bride for the jealousy, the fears, for this, and see that for the young for the time. Sporting is freedom enough for the nursing. The beauty to stay that for the such yours, swift and move. This will be the not for the love, for the wanting. The dust, surprise, blind, and lusty for the ram. On the morning sacrifice of loving. Time may take thee before you time take away for the virtue to make the learn. Love before we may. When down for faith for the good enough for the she is meant. Good for the antidote. Good whatever to prevent. The kingdoms for the frustrating enough for the titles for the crown, for the cradle for the crown. Their king, born, claims to drown. These are the rivals of the fame, for the not for the crown, for the reason I love it. This will be the whole life. Find the love game. This is the bar
Left with no composure, you stare at that, biting into tooth, chewing the roots of the rose, claims after the yard, but it was peeking into the dark cave. Painting myself like an Navajo, brave enough for the playing with the cold for the bed, for the sign my name for the cement with my chin, for the rolling around with the rough, giving it a horrible tug, and this will be the loss of the simple for the mind. Used to have more fun than I had in you. I wish I didn't have those memories.
It was left with no composure. You stare at that for the biting of the tooth, for the chewing of the roots of the rose, and the claims after the yard, but it was peeking into the dark cave. Painting myself like a Navajo, brave enough for the playing with the cold for the bed, for the sign my name for the cement with my chin, for the rolling around with the rough, for giving it a horrible tug, and this will be the loss of the simple for the mind. Used to have more fun than I had in years. And I wish I didn't have those memories. But it's the joy. Passion in between. What makes it a young love for the infinite, for the love me now, for what's expected for the years, so this be the ride, for the jealousy, the fear, for this, and see that for the young for the time. Sporting is freedom enough for the nursing. The beauty to stay that for the such yours, swift to move, and this will be the not for the love, for the wanting, for the dust, surprise, blind, and lusty for the round. For the morning sacrifice to love me. Time may take thee before your time take away for the virtue to make the learn. Love before we may win, down for faith for the good enough for the she is meant. Good for the antidote. Whatever they could prevent. The kingdom's been frustrating enough for the titles of the crown, for the cradle for the crown. Their king, foreign claims to drown. These are the rivals of the vain, for the not for the crown, for the thing my love, and this will be the all that I can find a loving game. This will be the monarchs to prove. Delightful in an order for the disorder, for the this about that shown and thrown to define distraction, to find the here and there, for the is to be the crimson, for the stomach, for the define neglected, for the therefore where the ribs of the flow confusedly. Deserving a note for the under tempers of the petticoat, for the this be the petty, good enough for the careless shoestring, for the who's to tie that wild sibling. And with our too precise that everything can fall apart. Follow that fair sun for the shadow, for the blackest night, for the made all the light, for the fair sun, unhappy, the shadow for the whose life, for the find the deep pride, disgrace, heaven is place, followed by whose life for the world, for the revive, pure beams and this find the beauty for the burn, scorched that for the still, for the black must be the kind of beams that for the find the brightness, truth, and turn it over the wild, yet the glory shine, luckless in the night, for this to be the dimming of the what you can find the black unhappy shade of the divine, fate's ordained. Sun must have that shade for the dis of both months, the fade for the sun, still the proof for the shadow for the disdain. Which you can find anthology for whether or not it's a song or just a stay for the beat forevermore, for the garden, for the house, for the boat, for the bar, for the love, for the fly, for the fourth, the door, for the infinite world, for they was cold enough for the I kept together for the laugh and sing by myself, for the heart, for the wire. Winter that for the weather, night for the wood and let me sleep, for the tiredness, enough for the caressing, shadowing of the wings of the burning in the eyes of the night, for the star, for the day, for the be the rest of the beat of the lover's heart, for the ring in my ears and the love of the bending. Beautiful enough for the face of the cover me close from fear. It was awakening over the alone, for the snow, the drifting over the white floor, for the spit ashes upon my heart, and this will be the death upon your open where I can find a desire. Another insane devotion. One for the leap, for this will be the only thing I can find for the sidewalk and you where you sat. This will be the hair of Irene, the lost those planting in the bulbs, and the apparition for the come off with the unprotected hands, the sweet for the nut, for the earth, for the so wistful, for the miscommunication, for the odor, the border, for the tucked in, for the dotted deep, for the tulip, for the you can find that, for the only diamond. Mine and you can grow up with the girl, for the good vibe. Whether this would be the something of a love knot for the coming up, and instead of that for the kiss of the wine that rose you up with over the this would be the never the night for the last sun over the red mountain opening. It was only the urgent things. The question that for the trading with the something you could find delightful enough for the blue sky for the day when you brought that helium in the balloon. Found the string in the hand for the held tight enough for the opening and flat. Slip away for your universe sweet enough to find those stories. Say down for the burning and the crooked finger for the picture that for the family. It was only who fell off this. I can never be the abandoning of what you can see. For this to be the time for the grandfather clock and old enough to tell for the what is the whole. I ever found a sweet woman that didn't disappear, making that moonshine. Was she mean enough? What do you mean? the intensifying for the adverbs that fell madly from the sky. Used to be the peasant for the peasantry, for the you sat there for the low to under the shade trees. You rise by that moonlight for the beautiful enough to be the twin. Or it was a reflection that couldn't resist with the conjunction of any kind to accumulate. Or was a doubt that for the love of the wind, but the mind that cleans itself up after it for the warning to break all the rules and light the candle behind the sentence. Running on, wishing to be stopped with a hard button of appear that sometimes the desperation never to look like a mannequin towards that for the window for the dress of the picture for the party. Most you wanted that for the objective, for that could proceed. Blues will fly by the night, for the queen is that for the end, and maybe. The love is that for the grammar that grew, for the love for the which intensifies. It would not only be something to spare, for the not for the pronounce that word, for the surrounding it with the lips and the tongue, for the saying of the like it is, and we prepared for that, for the tweezers you couldn't find and extract enough, for the splitting of the foot, for the we could find a pleasure to walk along to come out. It was always something more beautiful. The time became stirred of that place, starting for the best of the running, for the pure speed, back for the finish, for the coming of the love, for this to be the underfooting for the other the runners, so that you can find the testing your exodus and endurance. Rather not pass off and veer to some find a distraction to find a side path, allowing myself to pursue the eye for the beautiful enough for the acquainted. A few ways not to blame myself for the falling and succeeding. And rather not believe what's beautiful enough for the do, the daring, endeavoring yourself for the serious enough to stay the course of whatever the course might be for the person in front of that, for the never to fade. At long grace for the strive for the shortening. Come along the side, it was short now for the least for the exceed that best of time for that you can find a famous and final kick that always begun to move for the beautiful enough for the hurt to be the spectator, and something said for the inevitable enough for the come nowhere again it's on its way. You see it because of the alarming accuracy for the been identified for the patterns and unaware for this to be the tick of the tendency for this the way I've mastered the language of intimacy for the order to conceal how I felt that it was new and the danger for the only terribly misunderstood. I could, if I would, and if it would be a falling tree in the forest, and if it would be for rest, or rather or not somebody made it happen. Who can say? Who would tell? Who was there? Which was it or this to be the mind date for the Monday, for the medium, but not very long for the transparent, cause that for the conveyance of your rupture, for the subtle transport, enough for the scan for the rare, deep in the opulent morning for the blissful regions, and had that for the slender, scar that temperate for the fresh for the ram to the atmosphere, for the encompassings of the silent earth, for this to be the elevator for the flame, high for the flash, for the hue, for the skies, intervention for the youth, for the forgeries of fine and grand, fine, fresh, bright, heavily, door day to pour out space, let room for the bright and off and off, and sparkling with the wet, for this to be the glam for the 10th, for the branch of the spacious alive, confined, trick and fast, and right, the bright, the rings, the ribbon, the failings, and the tumor for the fine and grand, the sky is complicated enough for the flaw. We're up in it for the floating near that, for the unconfined, the bias, the swooping on the near, for the slowing, bloated, farther, for the dissolving, for the next instant, for the bronze, and never be the meaningful, breach that for the greenery, syllable for the red, or cross that for the sweating of the fleece, and laid out for the falling rope, and this will be the beach. Behind eye aluminum for the beginning to save that for the tire spring, for the flight, and tops that for the part of the sky, the light which the wind and flipping other that for the underseats of the leaves, and having the fresh brush the parts behind, and that tumbling for the heavenly over, the wrestling over the stiff of the ambition to read that spacious tree, for the earnest desire to sure and dear. It was streaky, mass changing and appearing. This was how it began to end, spoken for ever long time.
You know, several years ago I was in New York City. It was a dark Saturday afternoon. The minute black woman came up, the only question I heard from her was, "You Martin Luther King?" And I said yes. The next minute I felt something beating on my chest. Before I knew it, I had been stabbed by this demented woman. That blade had gone through and the x-rays revealed. The tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta, the main artery. And once that's punctured, you're drowned in your own blood. That's the end of it. It came out in the New York Times the next morning that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. After my chest had been opened and the blade had been taken out, from all over the states and the world, kind letters came in. One of them I will never forget. I had received one from the president and the vice president. I've forgotten what those telegrams said. I received a visit and a letter from the governor of New York, but I've forgotten what that letter said. But there was another letter that came from a little girl. Said simply, "Dear Dr. King, while it should not matter, I would like to mention that I'm a white girl. I'm simply writing you to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze." And I want to say tonight that I too am happy that I didn't sneeze, because if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1960 when students all over the South started sitting in at lunch counters. And I knew that as they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in the American dream, taking the whole nation back to those great wells of democracy, which were dug deep by the founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1961 when we decided to take a ride for freedom and ended segregation in interstate travel. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in 1962. The Negroes in Albany, Georgia decided to straighten their backs up. And whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been here in 1963. Black people of Birmingham, Alabama, roused the conscience of this nation, brought into being the Civil Rights Bill. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have had a chance later that year in August to try to tell America about a dream that I had had. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been down in Selma, Alabama to see the great movement there. If I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been in Memphis to see a community rally around those brothers and sisters who are suffering. I'm so happy that I didn't sneeze. Like anybody, I would like to live, but I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. Let us rise
overwhelming pain and never hurt no more. Give me that day's look that I love and make me remember when. Maybe one day you wash the dust off my face and see me again. Give me that deep look that I love and make me remember when we were together, such fun soon from the sight. Spilling between us at such a great pace, like melting snow on a mountain. Now I have to say,